Next, identify the visual elements to your thoughts. So going back to the main visual attributes that I pretty much always ask my students about, we won't really go over Gestalt right here. You could think of it as just broad vividness. I usually save that one for a little bit later in the sessions. Okay, so let's start with shape. So if we're thinking of, let's say, a beach ball, are we saying the word round to ourselves, or is there a sense of roundness? Is there a knowing of roundness, of the roundness of the ball? That's how you can start dissecting whether or not a thought might be a shape itself or the word that represents the shape. Next, color. So instead of thinking of the word sky blue, we may have the mental experience of that shade of blue. And color is really one of my favorites because there's only a certain number of ways that color can even exist. It's a completely subjective experience, by the way. So I can't tell if my blue is the same as your blue. Your blue might be my green. We don't have a way to tell that quite yet. So the main ways you can experience color is the name of a color, which doesn't actually represent the color itself. It's just language-based naming, so we can identify. You can have an emotional description of the color, but that's cultural, so red will mean different things to different cultures, right? Or you can have the color itself. That's really the only way it can exist. So if you have a shade in mind, and it's not just the name of the color, it may be a visual thought there. And last would be perspective, or you could call it orientation. So going back to our park bench scenario, perspective would be if you had any kind of sense of angle at which you would have been approaching the park bench, or maybe a light sensation of seeing the park bench. It can be a little bit mixed in with like a spatial or directional sensing, but more geared for like visual sense of what the park bench would look like from a certain angle. So that's a great question to ask yourself here. Was there any sense of angle as I described the park bench from earlier?